If you've listened for a while now, or if you know me at all, you will know that I have worked hard to get to a point in my business where I can take school holidays completely off. And with the end of the year creeping up, that means yet another school holiday is just around the corner. And of course, Christmas is around the corner too, which means I'm about to take 3 weeks off for Christmas. Yes, 3 whole weeks. This year, I've even added an extra week that is just for me, not just about the school holidays. Now, I get asked about how I do this a lot, so I thought I would share an episode about what I actually do to make it happen and to do it properly. Because over the years, I've realised if I don't plan for it, that time off just ends up being pretty stressful, to be honest, when my brain is still half in work mode. So in this episode, I am walking you through all of the steps I take to make it happen without the stress and without coming back to work with a to-do list that makes me wish I'd never taken the break in the first place. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hi, I am your host, Becky McAvoy. I am a multi-award-winning social media marketer, international speaker, and the dreamer behind Be Heard Socials and the boss at your socials club. I created this podcast to help women like you simplify your life and grow a business on your terms without the overwhelm. So if you are ready for some no BS advice, practical tips, and honest chats that make social media and business feel lighter and more doable, then you are in exactly the right place. Right then, let's get started with this week's episode. I am really excited about today's episode because I get asked quite a lot how I manage to take so much time off my business when I am a small business owner that predominantly does most of the stuff myself, like a lot of you listening, where, you know, it's really hard, isn't it? Where if you're not working, stuff doesn't get done. So yeah, I get asked about this a lot. And actually, my process for doing it isn't that complicated. I'm hoping lots of the tips that I'm going to share in this episode, you'll be like, oh, actually, yeah, that's dead simple. Yeah, I can do that too. So I'm hoping, that it gives you the tips to be able to do it yourself, or just the inspiration and the permission that it's okay to do it yourself. Because me taking so much time off my business partly comes from a necessity of having relatively young children who still need me around in the school holidays or need me to be off because I don't have a huge childcare support network around me. But the more that I've done it, it's also coming from a place of wanting to do it and realizing how powerful it is for my business too, because I will die on the hill that rest is productive. And that's probably quite a keen point in what I want to get across is when I say I am taking the time off or I'm taking 3 weeks off for Christmas, I don't mean the kind of half off where I'm not physically at my desk because the kids are at home and I can't be, but my head is still absolutely still partly in work mode and checking emails and messages and that kind of thing. I also don't mean being off, but spending the whole time neck deep in other full-time job of parenting, because like I said just now, I need to rest during that time. And also I actually want to enjoy that time as well. So when I'm sharing these tips and when I say I'm taking the time off, I mean off, where I actually disconnect, rest, and come back feeling refreshed and ready to go again. And that is no small feat when a lot of the time that you're taking off is for the school holidays, because like I said, I don't mean that a full-time job of parenting. The school holidays can also be exhausting. One of the reasons I am taking 3 weeks off for Christmas, the kids are off for 2 weeks, but I want an extra week so that I have a bit of time to sort of wind down and just have some time for me as well. So yeah, I'm going to share all of the tips. I'm really excited. I am going to take you through exactly what I do to make that possible. And when you listen and when you get to the end of it, I would love to hear from anybody listening to this episode, whether this is something you already do or whether there was anything that you're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Yeah, I'm going to do that too. That will really help me. Or if it's just giving you permission that actually it's okay to take the time off and your business won't fall apart if you do. So first things first, and this is super obvious, I guess, but really, really important. I plan my time off in advance. So I don't just book the holiday in my head and go, oh yeah, it's the summer holidays at this time or the Christmas holidays start on X date. I'm going to be off in that time. I actually plan it properly in advance. So by that, I mean, I decide how much time I want off. So like just now, I was just saying, I want a bit of extra time off. And actually, I do this with every school holiday. I add, ideally, if I'm able to, at least a day on either end of the school holiday where I just get to wind down a little bit. So I decide how much time I want off and I put that into my calendar, like actually into my Google Calendar, blocking it out just like a meeting, like it's actually in there and it's a thing that's happening. And then what I do is I move everything I've already time blocked in for that period forwards or backwards. So I move it to after I get back, or I move it before I go off on the annual leave. And by that stuff, I mean, like, I have regular recurring appointments in my calendar. So, where I um, write my emails, or where I check my finances, or just recurring stuff like that. So once the holiday's in there, I look at how much stuff I was meant to be doing during that time and either move it forwards or backwards, depending on where I can fit it in. If there's too much and I can't fit that in, I also go through it and look at whether it's an absolutely must do, or whether it doesn't matter if for 1 month, for example, I don't do that, or for 1 week, I don't do it. And if it's not a must do, even if I can't fit it in, even if I can, fit it in anywhere else, I delete it, because, not everything has to be done every single month. And this means I'm really clear about the work that should be being done when I'm not working. And I'm confident that I still have the time and space to get it done in time at another point. And I'm not coming back to it going, oh my goodness, I haven't done that thing, and now I need to do that thing. It also means that I'm not leaving things unfinished. And like I said, more importantly, it means I'm not creating a backlog that I'll stress about later or come back to once I'm back. So yeah, that's the first thing. I book it out in my calendar, and I look at all the work that I'm meant to do in that time, and I move it somewhere else, or I delete it out my calendar. Once I know exactly when I'm going to be off, I then tell my clients and my members, and I communicate it. I make it clear what I need from them before I go and by when. So I'm really clear with them that these are the dates that I'm not going to be in work. When I'm communicating that, I also explain how they should contact me if something urgent comes up, and what I'll be able to respond to versus what will wait until I'm back. Being really upfront about this manages expectations and takes the pressure off everyone, and that includes me. Now, this doesn't come as a massive surprise to clients, because when I am onboarding one-to-one clients, this is included in my terms of business. So they know that I take school holidays off. They know my working hours and all kinds of things like that. And all of my members will know it too, because I talk about it a lot. So it doesn't come as some sudden surprise. I'm really clear and upfront about it. And actually, if a client doesn't like it, then they don't have to work with me, because I'm really clear about that from the start. So yeah, once I've got it in my calendar, I then tell people basically, and I communicate it. Speaking of which, and talking of communication, obviously that's to the people that sort of arguably matter most, because those are the people paying me for the work that I do. But it's also important that I communicate it in other places too. So I put an out of office on, and I put this on a day or so before I actually go off on leave. I don't wait until the night before when I'm finishing, or the morning of going on leave. And the reason for this is it's so that any last emails that come through whilst I'm technically still at work, but winding down to finish, can wait too if needed. So they are also getting an out of office sort of a day or so before I've gone off, and they're not expecting a reply either. So it doesn't mean I have to work really late into the night answering all of those emails. I write a really clear message that tells people, hey, I'm off for X weeks, or I'm off from this date to this date, and here's when I'm going to be back, and here's how you can get help whilst I'm away. It's a super simple but very powerful message, and it keeps things professional, and again, manages expectations. And you know what? In the past, I've actually had replies to this. I had this over the summer holidays this year, actually, where people said, oh my God, I love this. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put something on mine as well. Like, it's okay to take a break. And if you take nothing else from this episode, even if you don't follow the steps, because maybe they won't work for you or whatever reason, please take it as permission that it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to take time off. All you've got to do is communicate it. And if people don't like that, well, you run our own business. That feels like a them problem, not an us problem. So another thing that I do is I schedule content to go out whilst I am off, out on my social media. I always make sure some posts go out whilst I'm away, including one that explicitly says I'm out of office, because this means that although I'm not online, my presence online doesn't drop off completely whilst I rest, and Instagram doesn't totally forget who I am. This is important because one of the key things that Adam Mosseri, who's the head of Instagram, has said around reach and that can impact reach is big breaks in posting. So it doesn't mean that you have to be posting every day. It doesn't even mean you have to be posting as regularly as you normally do, but just schedule a few posts to go out whilst you are off. If one of those posts is saying that you are off, then people are not going to know that you're not around to answer questions. You can set things like out of offices on your DM, like the away messages to say, I'm not responding to posts. Your reach is probably still going to drop in that time because your engagement makes a difference to how much reach you get, but it means that the Instagram algorithm doesn't completely forget who you are. Now, think about the posts that you are putting out, because obviously you don't want to do posts that are encouraging comments if you are not going to be around to actually answer those comments, because that's not a great vibe or a great look. So it can be posts that are selling posts. So you're still selling whilst you are off, and you're asking people to go and click a link and do that. Or it can be saves if you're looking for engagement or shares, just something that doesn't require you to be around. But yes, schedule those posts at the Instagram so that all your hard work doesn't just vanish and you have to start from scratch again when you get back. So, I talk about scheduling a lot. I will link to the scheduler that I use. I talk about it a lot because I love it, Metrical. I will share it in the show notes. So if you haven't got a scheduler at the moment, you can use that because it's really reliable. The free version is more than enough for most small business owners. But even if you do have to pay for it, it's a pretty low cost. But yeah, schedule those posts so that you are not letting all your hard work go to waste and Instagram forgets who you are and you have to start from scratch when you get back. But also so that you can still sell over that time, because I don't think there's any such thing as passive income, but you can still be selling and people can still know how to buy from you or how to work with you whilst you are off. So yeah, that's another thing that I do. I schedule some posts and I think about how many of them I want to go out during that time. Now, earlier I touched on how your reach was likely to drop during that time because you're not around to engage so much, but it won't completely fall off a cliff. And actually, when I track my analytics and look back on the month and see what my reach has looked like, if it's really dropped, then and I've been off for a school holiday, then I'm like, well, of course it's dropped because I wasn't around and I was having a lovely time resting, and I'm okay with that. So don't panic about the reach dropping, but also you're still getting, and you will still get, an amazing amount of reach whilst you are off. And that's incredible. So when I went off over the summer, I was off for 6 weeks, which is unreal. I had deleted the apps off my phone, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And my reach probably dropped by about 3/4. Yeah, it really, really dramatically dropped. But I still reached a few thousand people during that time, which is pretty unreal when you think about it. And once I came back after the summer, it took me about a week, maybe just over a week, to get my reach back up to where it normally had been. So like I said, by scheduling that content, made it really easy to get back to the point that I was normally at as well. Like I said, just over a week, which I think is amazing. So yeah, schedule some posts whilst you're off, still get your message out there, and don't let your hard work go to waste by letting Instagram forget who you are. Now, just now I spoke about the summer and I spoke about deleting my apps so I wasn't on them at all. Now, this might sound wild, and I have done an episode on this in an earlier season. I will link to it in the show notes about deleting my apps and why my biggest goal for social media right now is actually to spend as little time on it as possible. I get that it might sound wild and it might sound terrifying, but honestly, it's another hill that I will die on as a must. Doesn't mean you have to delete the social media apps, but delete the work apps from your phone. So for me, that's things like Slack, Telegram. Sometimes I keep the social media apps on there, and sometimes I still occasionally share stories when I'm off. I think that decision largely comes down to what headspace I'm in. When I did it over the summer, it's because I needed a break from social media. I felt like it was all getting too much and I needed a break with it. However, the other apps on my phone, like I said, I will die on the hill that this is a must. Delete Slack, delete Telegram, delete whatever work apps will distract you whilst you are off, because I know myself, and just turning off notifications isn't enough. And sometimes it's that memory, isn't it, of where like it's just habit to open your phone and check something. If you do it enough, you just do it naturally. So I don't want to give myself that sort of temptation if I go to do it naturally and go, oh, I deleted it because I'm off. So like I said, I know that just turning off notifications isn't enough. If it's still on my phone, I am likely to check it at some point whilst I'm off. So I delete it. And like I said, that sounds wild and terrifying. And sometimes it's like I go hardcore on it and I delete the social media apps as well. And sometimes I don't go quite that hardcore. Like I said, it can depend on what I'm looking at. But things like Slack, Telegram, where clients are messaging me or where members can message me, I turn it off because I don't want to be distracted by that. And I tell my clients and members this in advance so they know that I won't be responding until I'm back. One of the reasons that I do this is because I think one of the important and probably misunderstood things around boundaries is that if you tell somebody, for example, I take school holidays off, and then they message you during that time, that they are the person in the wrong, and they're not. Like, they are not the person. You are the person responsible for your boundaries. For me, what's really important is that my clients and members can message me whenever they want to, whenever suits their boundaries, whenever they're working. Just because I'm not doesn't mean they shouldn't. And if they want to message me so that, that's off their to-do list, then that's brilliant. They can message me and I won't read it until I'm back at work. And they know that. So they're not messaging me and expecting a reply. They're messaging me and going, oh, she'll pick this up when she is back. So yeah, it's a way of being able to hold your boundaries and keep your boundaries, but not limit your clients or your members or your customers or whoever it might be to do what suits them and message you when they want to. I promise you, my business has never completely collapsed in my absence, and anything that urgent has got through to me. Like, there is a way that if it was like life or death, which, let's be honest, it very rarely, if ever, is, it would get through to me. In reality, most of the urgent stuff when I get back was urgent for the person sending it, but not for me. And that's what I was talking about just now. It's important that when it's urgent to them, they can send it. But if they were a client or a member, they will have already been told that I wouldn't be at work. So maybe it's urgent for them to get off their to-do list, or, if people are like me, it's urgent for them because if they don't send it in that moment, they'll forget about it. But it wasn't urgent for me, and I can pick it up when I get back. So yeah, that's probably the scariest one of all of them. And maybe if you're just starting out with this, I will say, truthfully, I didn't do that from the very beginning. This has all been built up. I think it was 2 or maybe 3 years ago that I first started trying to take proper time off. And I've built it up over that time. And I have, done different things over that time. And like I said, if I'd have tried to delete the social media apps or delete the apps to start with, I think I'd have fallen apart. So it doesn't mean that you have to follow every single one of these steps, but these are just things to think about. So do what you feel comfortable with to start with. And then when you do it more and more, you will get more comfortable doing it. So I'm going to share the final main thing that I do before I go off on holiday and to plan for holiday. So I go through my Asana tasks, and this is a little bit like my calendar. Like, I basically see what I have coming up over the time that I am off, because I don't know what's been put in there, for example, by my VA, or the recurring tasks that are in there, like in my calendar. And there might be things that I'd plotted in and I just hadn't thought about it being a school holiday. So I basically go through my Asana tasks. And on Asana, when you go through to your task page, you can filter it down to what's coming up over the next 2 weeks, for example. You can choose different time filters. So that's what I do. I filter it down and I look what's coming up. And this is largely recurring tasks or things I've put in there that I've perhaps forgotten about, like I said. And like in my calendar, I then bring the date of them forward, or I push it back till after I'm off. Or again, if it's not a must do, because not everything is a must do, sometimes it's just a good to do, I skip it for that month or that week or whatever it might be. This means, again, like with my calendar, I don't come back to a huge list of overdue tasks, which would just immediately overwhelm me. Even though I know that they're things that could have waited, if I've already changed the date on them or deleted them, or I've already ticked them off before I went off, I don't have to come back to all those overdue tasks. Because I don't know if you are like me or if you can relate to this, but just looking at a load of like red dates where all the dates have passed stresses me out, and I don't need to see that. So yeah, it means I don't come back to a huge list of overdue tasks, which is wonderful, and it helps me come back much more relaxed and knowing that I've covered it, that I've either done it already or I've planned it in for a future date for when I will do it if it was a must do. So yeah, those are the main things that I do, which honestly aren't revolutionary. They are mainly just planning and communicating. Those are really the 2 things that you need to think about doing, is planning and communicating, whether you do it in exactly the same way that I do it or whether you do it slightly differently for the way that your business works. Obviously, there will be some things that you need to cover in your business, and there will be ways of finding a way to make that work. But yeah, planning and communicating are the 2 key things. And the best bit of all of this is that they take some thought, but they're not actually that time consuming to do if you plan in the time to do it. So yeah, get it done and take some time off. And like I said, if it's just starting small and you don't want to delete the apps, that's fine. But the more you do it, the more you will get comfortable with that. I just want to share before we finish some other things that help me switch off that I've learned over time. So the first one of those is I set boundaries with my home environment. So this started when I didn't have my converted garage and the office space that I worked in because my desk was in the house. So I had to create like a little no work zone in the house. I still do this, even though I've got the office space outside. But basically what I've learned is that if you can create that little no work zone in your house, even if it's just for the first few days, I try not to open my laptop at all during my breaks. And I often put it away in a cupboard so that I can't even see it. And I'm not tempted to open it because the temptation is real. I have like no self-control really. If I can see something, I will go and do it or think, well, I'll just go and do that for a couple of minutes. And then all of a sudden I've done like a couple of hours work. So yeah, set boundaries within your home environment if you work from home. And if you can, create yourself a little no work zone in your house as well. And put things away so that you can't see them, that you're not tempted to do some of the work. I also do a brain dump before I go. So I write down any loose threads, ideas or worries that they're out of my head and I can come back to it once I'm back. And this stops me lying in bed thinking about work, which honestly I do. And I'm not like afraid to admit that I do because I think lots of us do. But I just know that if I've got it down somewhere, I don't have to think about it until I'm back. And I've also I have a notepad or a, write things down in Asana sort of as I go on the app so that I can just brain dump it and be gone because I'm not superhuman. I can't just stop myself thinking about work whilst I'm off. So that's a really helpful thing to do. Having somewhere that you can brain dump your ideas whilst you're off is crucial, I think. So like I said, that's just if you're like, oh, I forgot about this and you can just brain dump it somewhere. But also some of my best ideas come to me when I'm off work because I've actually given my brain time to think and I've actually given myself time to slow down and rest. And it's totally okay if you have an idea and you just need to put it somewhere. One of the ways that I do this, like I said about Asana and a notepad, I used to do that. I've over time realized that doesn't work as well because more so with Asana than a notepad, but I can open it up and again, see something. So one of the things that I do now is voice note myself. And then when I get back to work, I have a task in my Asana that says check your voice notes and move anything over here if you need to. I also plan non-work things I actually want to do and get me out of the house or away from the house. If I'm just around the house, because I work from home, I still feel a little bit like I'm at work. So it means being at home, sometimes I associate it with work. It's more so in the first few days because now that I've done this quite a lot, I just need that time to sort of decompress from work and not be tempted back in. Once I've been off for a few days, I'm generally okay. But like I said, working from home does mean I associate it with work sometimes and I can easily reach for my laptop. Putting it in a cupboard doesn't magically change that. So I like to have a few things I genuinely look forward to, even if it's just going to a friend's house with the kids or a day out with the kids. Or if we're really lucky, actually going on a holiday or going down south to see my family and things like that. But that's quite important for me as well. The key for me is that taking a proper break isn't just about not working. It's about removing the temptation, setting expectations and giving my brain space to rest. If you can do all of this, the mental load lifts and you can actually enjoy your break without sneaky stress creeping in, basically. And what I would say is there have been some holidays where, especially over the summer and I'm off for 6 weeks, I've decided that I am going to do a bit of work because I don't know, the kids have been invited round to a friend's or something and I've got some time. And if I am feeling okay and I just want to do a bit of work, I can do. But the real crucial thing for that is that it's a choice, not something I feel like I have to do. And 99%, if not 100% of the time, is because I'm working on something exciting and I want to work on it. And it's about working on my business rather than in my business. So it's not like, oh, the kids have gone to a play date, I've got to be doing something. It's like, oh, actually, I'd quite like to work on this during this time. And it's about it being a choice. That's a really critical thing for me. So you haven't failed if you do a couple of hours work because you're excited about your business. That's why we are business owners. The critical point in there is that it's a choice. And ideally, you're working on your business and it's because you're so excited about doing something that you want to do a bit of work on it. So yeah, that is my system. Like I said, not revolutionary, but it really helps me. If you are thinking about taking some time off over the Christmas period or at any other point, I really hope that this gives you a few ideas to make it actually restful. Thank you, as always, for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could leave me a review or share it with a friend. And in the meantime, I will be back in your ears next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am really grateful you chose to spend your time here. Before you go, if you love this podcast and you're a woman running a small business who wants to make social media easier and business life less lonely, I have got something for you. The Boss Your Socials Club is here to bring you inspiration, accountability, confidence, and community. It's a place where we ban the word should because we believe in bespoke advice that will work for you, your stage of life, and your business. You'll get a monthly content plan, ready-to-use templates, accountability and action sessions, a private member podcast, expert support, and a brilliant community of women who get it. It's like having a mini social media expert in your pocket so you can show up with confidence without the overwhelm. Membership starts at just £24 a month, and there's a pro tier if you want even more support. Thank you again for listening, and I will see you next time.